The Hunter Biden laptop makes yet another appearance in the Twitter files. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Mike Schellenberger began to release Twitter Files Part 7 at 8:09 a.m. Pacific Time yesterday. His colleague Matt Taibbi covered the Hunter Biden laptop story more than 2 weeks ago. Now we have further details. Perhaps after FBI General Counsel Jim Baker is no longer with Twitter. Before I share this with you, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, including this t-shirt that I have chosen for today, which quotes Aldous Huxley, saying, "Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored." Indeed they don't. And once again, more facts are surfacing that some people will not be able to ignore. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, do you see that new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now then, as I always do, I've left links in the description to every other tweet in the thread, beginning with the second, but closing with the 49th and last. Here's the text. Thread begins. The FBI and the Hunter Biden laptop. How the FBI and the intelligence community discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, both after and before the New York Post revealed the contents of his laptop on October 14, 2020. In Twitter File 6, we saw the FBI relentlessly seek to exercise influence over Twitter, including over its content, its users, and its data. In Twitter Files 7, we present evidence pointing to an organized effort by representatives of the intelligence community, the IC, aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. The story begins in December 2019 when a Delaware computer store owner named John Paul, or J.P. MacIsaac, contacts the FBI about a laptop that Hunter Biden had left with him. On December 9, 2019, the FBI issues a subpoena for and takes possession of Hunter Biden's laptop. By August 2020, MacIsaac still had not heard back from the FBI, even though he had discovered evidence of criminal activity. And so he emails Rudy Giuliani, who was under FBI surveillance at the time. In early October, Giuliani gives it to the New York Post, and shortly before 7 p.m. Eastern Time on October 13th, Hunter Biden's lawyer, George Mesiras, emails J.P. MacIsaac. Hunter and Mesiras had just learned from the New York Post that the story about the laptop would be published the next day. At 9:22 p.m. Eastern Time, that's 6:22 Pacific Time, FBI Special Agent Elvis Chan of San Francisco office sends 10 documents to Twitter's then head of site integrity, Yoel Roth, through Teleporter, a one-way communications channel from the FBI to Twitter. The next day, October 14, 2020, the New York Post runs its explosive story revealing the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. Every single fact in it was accurate, and yet, within hours, Twitter and other social media companies censor the New York Post article, preventing it from spreading, and more importantly, undermining its credibility in the minds of many Americans. On December 2nd, Matt Taibbi described the debate inside Twitter over its decision to censor a wholly accurate article. Since then, we have discovered new information that points to an organized effort by the intel community to influence Twitter and other platforms. First, it's important to understand that Hunter Biden's earned tens of millions of dollars in contracts with foreign businesses, including ones linked to China's government, for which Hunter offered no real work. We have an overview by investigative journalist Peter Schweitzer. That is, Mr. Schellenberger has embedded a video of an interview with Schweitzer. And yet, during all of 2020, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed Yoel Roth to dismiss reports of Hunter Biden's laptop as a Russian hack and leak operation. This, that's an embedded document page, is from a sworn declaration by Roth given in December 2020. They did the same thing to Facebook, according to CEO Mark Zuckerberg. The FBI basically came to tell us and was like, hey, you should be on high alert. We thought there was a lot of Russian propaganda in 2016 election. There's about to be some kind of dump similar to that. And let me give you a quick note. The night before last, a different reporter, possibly an amateur, revealed the extent of intelligence community co-optation of Facebook. And I talked about that less than 12 hours ago. Were the FBI warnings of a Russian hack and leak operation relating to Hunter Biden based on any new intelligence? No, they weren't. Through our investigation, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what had happened in 2016, admitted FBI agent Elvis Chan in November. Indeed, Twitter executives repeatedly reported very little Russian activity. For example, on September 24th, 2020, Twitter told FBI it had removed 345 largely inactive accounts linked to previous coordinated Russian hacking attempts. They had little reach and low follower accounts. In fact, Twitter debunked false claims by journalists of foreign influence on its platform. We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim by that is a claim by Ben Collins from NBC News of foreign-controlled bots. Our review thus far shows a small-scale domestic troll effect. After FBI asked about a WAPO story, meaning Washington Post, on alleged foreign influence in a pro-Trump tweet, Twitter's Roth said, the article makes a lot of insinuations, but we saw no evidence that that was the case here. And in fact, a lot of strong evidence pointing in the opposite direction. It's not the first time that Twitter's Roth has pushed back against the FBI. In January 2020, Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside of the normal search warrant process. Pressure had been growing. We have seen a sustained, if uncoordinated, effort by the IC, the intelligence community, to push us to share more information and change our API policies. They are probing and pushing everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. Time and again, FBI asked Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting. We haven't yet identified activity that we typically refer to you or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context. Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requests information from Twitter that Twitter has already made clear it will not share outside of normal legal channels. Then, in July 2020, the FBI's Elvis Chan arranges for temporary top-secret security clearances for Twitter executives so that the FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming elections. On August 11, 2020, the FBI's Chan shares information with Twitter's Roth relating to the Russian hacking organization APT28 through the FBI's secure one-way communications channel Teleporter. Recently, Yoel Roth told Kara Swisher that he had been primed to think about the Russian hacking group APT28 before news of the Hunter Biden laptop came out. And when it did, Roth said it set off every single one of my finely tuned APT-28 hack and leap campaign alarm bells. Before we take this further, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You're not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the last few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Lines helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, they can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. In August 2020, FBI's Chan asked Twitter, "Does anyone there have top secret clearance?" When someone mentions Jim Baker, Chan responds, "Oh, I don't know how I forgot him." An odd claim, given Chan's job is to monitor Twitter, not to mention that they work together at the FBI. Who is Jim Baker, you ask? He's the former general counsel of the FBI, 2014 to 2018, and one of the most powerful men in the U.S. intel community. Baker has moved in and out of government for 30 years, serving stints at CNN, Bridgewater, a $140 billion asset management firm, and the Brookings Institution. As general counsel of the FBI, Baker played a central role in making the case internally for an investigation of Donald Trump. Baker wasn't the only senior FBI exec involved in the Trump investigation to go to Twitter. Don Burton, the former deputy chief of staff to FBI head James Comey, who initiated the investigation of Trump, joined Twitter in 2019 as director of strategy. As of 2020, there were so many former FBI employees, Boo alumni, Boo as in bureau, working at Twitter, that they had created their own private Slack channel and a crib sheet to onboard new FBI arrivals. Efforts continued to influence Twitter's Yoel Roth. In September 2020, Roth participated in an Aspen Institute tabletop exercise on a potential hack and dump operation relating to Hunter Biden. The goal was to shape how the media covered it and how social media carried it. The organizer was Vivian Schiller, the former CEO of NPR, former head of news at Twitter, former general manager of the New York Times, former chief digital officer of NBC News. Attendees included Meta/Facebook's head of security policy and the top national security reporters for the New York Times, the Washington Post, and other organs. By mid-September 2020, Chan and Roth had set up an encrypted messaging network so employees from FBI and Twitter could communicate. They also agreed to create a virtual war room for all the internet industry, plus FBI and ODNI, that's Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Then, on September 15, 2020, the FBI's Laura Demlow, who heads up the Foreign Influence Task Force, and Elvis Chan, requests to give a classified briefing for Jim Baker without any other Twitter staff, such as Yoel Roth, present. On October 14th, shortly after the New York Post publishes its Hunter Biden laptop story, Roth says it isn't clearly violative of our hacked materials policy, nor is it clearly in violation of anything else, but adds, this feels a lot like a somewhat subtle leak operation. In response to Roth, Baker repeatedly insists that the Hunter Biden materials were either fake, hacked, or both, and a violation of Twitter policy. Baker does so over email and in a Google Doc on October 14th and 15th. And yet, it's inconceivable that Baker believed that the Hunter Biden emails were either fake or hacked. The New York Post had included a picture of the receipt signed by Hunter Biden, and an FBI subpoena showed that the agency had taken possession of the laptop in December 2019. And as for the FBI, it likely would have taken a few hours for it to confirm that the laptop had belonged to Hunter Biden. Indeed, it only took a few days for journalist Peter Schweitzer to prove it. By 10 a.m., Twitter execs had bought into a wild hack and dump story. The suggestion from experts, which rings true, is that there was a hack that happened separately and they loaded the hack materials on the laptop that magically appeared at a repair shop in Delaware. At 3:38 p.m. that same day, October 14th, Baker arranges a phone conversation with Matthew J. Perry in the office of the General Counsel of the FBI. The influence operation persuaded Twitter execs that the Hunter Biden laptop did not come from a whistleblower. One linked to a Hill article based on a WAPO article from October 15th, which falsely suggested that Giuliani's leak of the laptop had something to do with Russia. There is evidence that the FBI agents have warned elected officials of foreign influence with the primary goal of leaking the information to the news media. This is a political dirty trick used to create the perception of impropriety. In 2020, the FBI gave a briefing to Senators Charles Grassley of South Carolina and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, claiming evidence of Russian interference into their investigation of Hunter Biden. The briefing angered the senators, who say it was done to discredit their investigation. The two senators say, quote, "The unnecessary FBI briefing provided the Democrats and liberal media the vehicle to spread their false narrative that our work advanced Russian disinformation," unquote, Senators Grassley and Johnson. Notably, then FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was investigated twice in 2017 and 2019 for leaking information to the news media. You're saying he's under criminal investigation? That's why you're not letting him answer? Meadows asked. Meadows shows up in the tweet. Baker answers, yes. This from an article in Politico. There's a link to it in the tweet. In the end, the FBI's influence campaign aimed at executives at news media, Twitter, and other social media companies worked. They censored and discredited the Hunter Biden laptop story. By December of 2020, Baker and his colleagues even sent a note of thanks to the FBI for its work. The FBI's influence campaign may have been helped by the fact that it was paying Twitter millions of dollars for its staff time. I am happy to report that we have collected $3,450,323 since October 2019, reports an associate of Jim Baker in early 2021. And the pressure from the FBI on social media platforms continues. Present tense. In August 2022, Twitter execs prepared for a meeting with the FBI, whose goal was to convince us to produce on more FBI EDRs. Now, EDRs, that's emergency disclosure requests. It amounts to a warrantless search. In response to the Twitter files revelation of high-level FBI agents at Twitter, Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio said, quote, "I have concerns about whether the government was running a misinformation operation on we the people," unquote, Jim Jordan. Anyone who reads the Twitter files, regardless of their political orientation, should share these concerns. End of thread. Now, at least 3 users understand the connection between this and earlier evidence that the FBI treated Twitter as a subsidiary. One user says that he's been in intelligence for 40 years and has, quote, never seen such an egregious violation of the Constitution by any federal agency, unquote, close quote. Laurie Mills, head of host of Uncover California at KABC TV, presumably in Los Angeles, wants the names of those who took part in that Aspen conference. Another user remembers that document that some 50-odd former senior intel officers signed, the one saying the laptop was Russian disinformation. This user suggests that they all took part in what he called the pre-game plan. Still another user wants to know who or what the Aspen Institute is. They have a web address, and their search engine meta description describes it as, and I quote, a nonpartisan forum for values-based leadership and the exchange of ideas, close quote. That's aspeninstitute.org. Some highly unsavory rumors continue to swirl around Yoel Roth. Now, if you're really interested, you can follow the link to the article on Conservative News and Views. You will find a tweet there listing some apparent quotes attributed to Roth. Frankly, I don't care about that, unless it turned into blackmail leverage, which it could very well have done. I care about his complicity in violation of the Constitution and our rights under it. This thread seems to show that the FBI worked on Roth to bring him around to taking a willing part. Recall Matt Taibbi's supplemental to Twitter File 6 showing that precise thing? By the summer of 2020, Roth's relationship with the FBI had begun to sour. Now, Roth wasn't so comfortable with sharing such information on users, nor did he believe the foreign influence narrative. So Elvis Chan sent him a message with an unmistakable subject: get with the program. If Roth really was letting his proclivities hang out, maybe Chan was blackmailing him, or Roth was afraid of that. Either way, we see him eventually saying, yes sir, anything you say, sir. Even apart from that, we see the FBI paying a bribe to Twitter. An ongoing bribe. Jim Baker handled that department. And remember, this was going on as recently as this past fall until Elon Musk took the company over and fired its top executive echelon. I must close with a sad note. Apparently, Elon Musk has committed himself to stepping down as CEO of Twitter, and that sooner than he planned. I understand that he is trying to choose a successor, and I can only hope that successor will fight as hard as Elon has been fighting for freedom of speech on Twitter. Link in the description of the article, to this thread, to 4 tweets in reaction to the thread, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and in ourcivillights.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel and a link to my Twitter Files playlist, to my State Actor video, and to the Quartering State on Twitter Files 7. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.